Tim, you
Yep.
good?
Yeah, we're ready.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. Our regular Knuckleheads include Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty, our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett, and your host, Jason McPhee. We consider the issues of the day with an eye on liberty. Now, on with the show. And welcome again to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you today on February 16th, 2022. And still running through a lot of craziness regarding government erosion of our liberties due to COVID, all over North America. Gosh, but, this particular show, I think we wanted to let's jump into masks because, boy, I tell you, as we seem to be getting closer to the end of this whole pandemic, the mask mania just keeps on popping up everywhere as far as what are the rules, how to get along, with these masks and such. So it's just one thing after another. And I think the biggest issue along with these masks really popped up, the hypocrisy of it, recently with the Superbowl this last Sunday. So maybe we can get an image on that. And so this is just absolutely crazy. I mean, we saw a little bit of this hypocrisy a couple weeks ago in the NFC Championship game that also happened at SoFi Stadium in LA, where both Gil Garcetti, and that's who you're seeing in this picture right here, Mayor Gil Garcetti of Los Angeles, who incidentally has a mask mandate in place for Los Angeles for indoors and for schools and all these other things. Okay. And he was caught taking pictures with celebrities in both of these occasions, at both of these Super Bowls. Both the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game. And after the NFC Championship game, he said it was okay because when I took that mask off, I was holding my breath. So we literally see the Clinton, defense with marijuana coming in. I smoked, but I didn't inhale.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
I don't know how dumb these guys think their constituents are, but apparently they don't have much respect for them mentally. And but it's not just Garcetti here. So we had Garcetti, but almost nobody was masked. So let me scroll through some of these images here. But you see this cavalcade of celebrities all over the place. Here's LeBron James, of course.
Yes.
Like our woke, our wokest premier basketball player out there, and we also have a lot of others. Here's I believe that's Kane West. Here's Ellen DeGeneres. I tell you, it's just one image after another of celebrities, and of course, none of them wearing masks. And of course, none of the people around them wearing masks. And it's funny too. Here's Charlize Theron, and she actually had a Twitter or a tweet that came out before that told people to wear their effing masks. Farther back in the pandemic, and of course, here she is in a jurisdiction that is requiring people to wear their masks, and she is not wearing her mask. And I believe this is Garcetti prior to the Super Bowl. Telling everybody that masks were important.
Yes.
It's just absolute insanity. But aside from this, while this was going on in the Super Bowl, there are schools around there where kids are literally forced to play sports with their masks on, while we have a world stage showing the hypocrisy of adults not wearing their masks while this thing is going on. And, quite frankly, as libertarians, we think that should be up to people. But the absolute hypocrisy that's going on while they force others to do this, and they essentially, little kids who don't have a voice and can't defend themselves, they just push them around and force them to wear their masks, which is absolutely just child abuse. Anyway, what do you guys think of this? This is just, it's got me triggered anyway.
Well, we should be triggered. We really should be triggered. And you said, Jason, you said Gil Garcetti. I think Gil Garcetti was Eric Garcetti's father. Eric Garcetti is current mayor.
Sorry.
Okay. But the point is though, but it doesn't change the point. Okay, the hypocrisy is still quite large. But the point is though, these people who are supposed to be our illustrious central planners, they have no science to have our kids in masks, but they have them. And when we catch them in their hypocrisy, they come up with some of the most ridiculous excuses. Eric Gasset, he's going to tell us, we dumb fools, he's going to tell us that, oh, I took the picture, but I was holding my breath. This was so wonderful, Eric. We're glad to know that. But the central planners are ruining the lives of our children. That's what they're doing. And the teachers' unions are there in bed with them, and they're making sure that this mask policy continue forever and ever. I think Brandy Weingarten recently she said, well, we will unmask the kids when there are zero cases in society or zero cases in the county or whatever. I mean,
and to clarify, Leon, Randy Weingarten, for our listeners, she is the head of the National Teachers Union. I can't remember exactly what they call that organization, but she's the spokesperson essentially for all those teachers unions.
She's the president. I think she's president of one of the unions. Yes, you're right. But this is crazy, and these people have no science to back up their positions. None. And this is doing detrimental harm to our children, long-term harm, and still they continue. And then they practice the hypocrisy of Sunday. I'm enjoying the Super Bowl, but no mask. But on Monday, our kids can't go to school and enjoy themselves, but they must wear a mask. This is crazy.
Well, bad results and no science never stopped a progressive from trying to progress the human race right off the cliff. Ian Miller just released his book, Unmasked, the global failure of the COVID mask mandates, and in which he has over 2,000 charts showing that regardless whether there was a mask mandate or even mask usage or not, the charts, you can't tell the difference. You can't tell when the mask mandate started. You can't tell when it ended. You can't tell the difference between one state that had mask mandates and one state without. You can't tell one country from another, even if they had seriously disruptive mask mandates and shutdowns against a country that had none, zero, or almost zero. And the graphs show whatever part of COVID you want to see: cases, fatalities, hospitalizations, positive test, or whatever metric you want to measure. These charts are identical. You could put them right next to each other, and they pattern like, two. They look like one central bank's balance sheet versus another, just straight up, but all of them, they're all printing money like it's going out of style, which, by the way, the money is going out of style. I'm here to tell you. But also, so when Leon says, I don't know if he knows about Ian's book, but when Leon says that there's no science to it, he has no idea how right he is. There is no science to it. It's pathetically just an exercise on bullies doing what bullies do best, and that's bully people, especially young, innocent, can't do anything about it people going to grade school.
And you see, and this is the thing, though. This is the thing. They will always call us the science deniers if we object to their tyranny. And they are quick to point the fingers at us and say, oh, we are the deniers of science. And yet they practice their non-science and their hypocrisy, and they expect us to accept it.
Well, but remember that, the science is Fauci on this, right?
Oh, there we go.
I am the science. And he said double mask. Yeah. So, for the rest of this, just to be in compliance, I'm going to mask myself. Okay, just to make sure that I'm safe and it doesn't cause any problems. I'm even going to double mask because that's what Fauci was recommending. Okay, so I'm actually going to double mask here.
I love it.
I am very safe now, as safe as any of the science could possibly imagine with COVID. And I think at least I'll be safe enough for the Super Bowl.
I feel so safe, Jason. I feel so safe. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, the only issue I have is that you left your ears uncovered.
That's right.
True.
Yes.
Your ears are vulnerable.
But I have to have a way that I can hear the science, and I might mishear the science. The science speaks to us. Some of the other craziness in all this too is what's going on with the kids. I mean, we've alluded to this, and I mean, there was a case here where recently where a 9-year-old kid was actually had a teacher who taped the kid's mask to their face because it kept slipping off. And I can't imagine, how we talk about child abuse. Kids are the ones who are least impacted by all of this, and yet they're the ones who were forcing this ridiculous paradigm of wearing these masks, and to the point where if it starts to slip off, the teacher then in some cases is going to be like an authoritarian Nazi and tape the mask to the kid's face. I just can't even imagine, that. And, there's a few other stories here too. I just wanted to shuffle through a few of these and then get your guys' thoughts on them. We've had issues too where a teacher was placed on administrative leave because he was trying to teach his math class, and he was having trouble teaching through the mask. So he was constantly pulling his mask down from his face, and eventually the school put him on administrative leave. So we talk about how this is affecting not only the kids' ability to their safety, but their ability to learn as well. And if a teacher is thinking they're having trouble teaching in the class, clearly that's a sign that the kid is going to have trouble learning as well. And there's a few other things here too, that there's lots of arguments that are happening within the schools because of the content of the masks. So a lot of people essentially putting different messages on the mask. And so here in Mississippi, a kid was forced to remove their mask. So, apparently just wearing a mask isn't enough. You have to make sure the message on the mask is appropriate too. And so this kid had a mask that said, "Jesus loves me," and they forced the kid to remove his mask. So I guess not safety first in that case. And we've had similar stories in other places. And this here in California, in Grass Valley, there was an 8th grader who had a mask that said Thin Blue Line on it, or it was a representation of the Thin Blue Line. And the teacher started arguing with him in class about wearing a mask with that messaging that was supporting the police. So it's just, and it doesn't just go in one direction either. In Texas, apparently there was a teacher who wore a Black Lives Matter mask, and she was let go from her job because she refused to take off when the school district told her not to wear that message. So this isn't just in one direction, but the idea that we can't even agree on these, on these basic rules with wearing the masks. And one other school issue I wanted to bring up as well. Here in Plumas County too, I believe it's a Del Oro school. Several kids came to school and they weren't wearing their masks, and the teachers or the school district locked them out and left them in the parking lot. So these kids were literally unsupervised. So if we're talking safety, exactly what kind of safety are we talking about here? Kids who at least risk of having a problem due to COVID. And if they don't wear the mask, you're going to leave them out on the street unsupervised. I just can't even imagine what's going on. So that's sort of my montage of school images and the chaos that's going on. You guys have some thoughts or want to comment on any of these particular stories?
I just want to know if they get in trouble for wearing T-shirts that have the wrong message, or a message, any kind of message, like Black Lives Matter, or like Thin Blue Line, or Jesus loves me. If they can't wear a T-shirt and they can't wear a mask, and the rules are somewhat uniform, then maybe there's some element of, okay, well, they're in charge. It's their joint, like it or not, and believe whether it's public school or not, for the public, So, there may be some lack of hypocrisy if it were that way. But if it's just, no, you can wear any T-shirt you want, but you just can't wear a mask with a message on it that we don't like anything other than the school color. So I'm assuming they have lots of T-shirts with the school logo on it. And that's the only T-shirt you're allowed to wear. I mean, if they were consistent. Now, if they're just going to be typical of the left and progressives and everybody with zero principles, then lack of consistency is one of the principles. The principles of the progressive movement is lack of consistency, and the principle is also hypocrisy. So if they are, I guess, in a sense, that's principled. If you have lack of principles, then that's your principle. Is that correct?
Yeah, your principle is no principles. That's right. You're right.
Yeah, right.
You know, but Jason, you raised the case in Mississippi of the case of the Jesus Love Me case. Now, the principal, I believe, in that school told the kid to take the mask off because it had a religious message on it, and claimed that was school. It was violating school policy. The parents of that kid could not find where the policy said that religious messages were forbidden. It turned out that the school, if you believe the complaint, 2 days after they went back and they updated the policy to reflect this, to try to cover the incident that occurred where someone told the kid to take the mask off because it says Jesus loved me. But these people updated the policy to say, well, we don't discriminate against this, that, and the other. And one of the things that they don't discriminate against is people's religious affiliations. But what do they think they're doing if they're telling a child to remove a mask that says Jesus loved me in it? They're specifically telling them, they're specifically discriminating against religious beliefs. Even when they are updated, even in their updated policies, which was done 2 days after the incident, they're still showing their hypocrisy. They're still showing their lies. And they're still showing the damage and the hurt that they're causing to our children. These people are unbelievable. And this speaks loud and clear. All these examples you have stated, Jason, this speaks loud and clear to school choice. Where parents could make the choice as if they want to keep on being subjected to the tyranny of the zip code. Where these schools think they own our kids and not us.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy. And like you say, school choice, absolutely the way we should be going with this. You know, if people feel like the mask helps or hinders, that should be part of what a school can use to advertise whether or not people should come there or not. So I can't think of anything else. But I got one more mask story, but let's jump to good guys with guns first because we missed it last week. I don't want to miss it again. So let's hit that. Okay. If we have time, we'll jump to our last mask story.
Okay. Well, all right. Yeah, this is not actually something that happened. This is an article, so I'm going to read it. This was written by a Marine Corps officer, I believe, which doesn't surprise me. But anyways, very well written. Here we go. Okay. It is Why the Gun is Civilization. Human beings only have two ways to deal with one another: reason and force. If you want me to do something for you, you have a choice of either convincing me via argument or force me to do your bidding under threat of force. Every human interaction falls into one of those two categories without exception: reason or force. That's it. In a truly moral and civilized society, people exclusively interact through persuasion. Force has no place as a valid method of social interaction. And the only thing that removes force from the menu is the personal firearm, as paradoxical as it may sound to some among us. When I carry a gun, you cannot deal with me by force. You have to use reason and try to persuade me, because I have a way to negate your threat or employment of force. The gun is the only personal weapon that puts a 100-pound woman on equal footing with a 220-pound mugger, a 75-year-old retiree on equal footing with a 19-year-old gangbanger, and a single gay guy on equal footing with a carload of drunk guys with baseball bats. The gun removes the disparity in physical strength, size, or numbers between a potential attacker and a defender. There are plenty of people who consider the gun as the source of bad force equations. These are the people who think that we'd be more civilized if all guns were removed from society, because a firearm makes it easier for a mugger to do his job. That, of course, is only true if the mugger's potential victims are mostly disarmed either by choice or by legislative fiat. It has no validity when most of a mugger's potential marks are armed. People who argue for the banning of arms ask for automatic rule by the young, the strong, and the many. And that's the exact opposite of a civilized society. A mugger, even an armed one, can only make a successful living in a society where the state has granted him a force monopoly. Then there's the argument that the gun makes confrontations lethal, that otherwise it only result in injury. This argument is fallacious in several ways. Without guns involved, confrontations are won by the physically superior party inflicting overwhelming injury on the loser. People who think that fists, bats, sticks, or stones don't constitute lethal force watch too much TV, where people take beatings and come out of it with a bloody lip at worst. The fact that the gun makes lethal force easier works solely in favor of the weaker defender, not the stronger attacker. If both are armed, the field is level. The gun is the only weapon that's as lethal in the hands of an octogenarian as it is in the hands of a weightlifter. It simply wouldn't work as well as a force equalizer if it wasn't both lethal and easily employable. Last paragraph. When I carry a gun, I don't do so because I'm looking for a fight, but because I'm looking to be left alone. The gun at my side means that I cannot be forced, only persuaded. I don't carry it because I'm afraid, but because it enables me to be unafraid. It doesn't limit the actions of those who would interact with me through reason, only the actions of those who would do so by force. It removes force from the equation, and that's why carrying a gun is a civilized act.
And real quick, Tim, who was the author of that again?
Yeah, let's see. That one doesn't say, but I do happen to have it over yonder. And the name is, he was a Major L. Caudill, Caudill, U.S. Marine Corps retired. So he's a retired major from the U.S. Marine Corps.
Well,
that was a well written article, and I think that that major point that he made, that the gun removes the disparities in life, whether that be usually the disparity of force, I would say. And I think that's a very good point for us to keep in mind as we go forward with these Second Amendment debates that we seem to be having more frequently these days.
So it's certainly an argument that the the armed society is probably a more polite society.
Polite society, yeah.
Yes.
I think that's the same argument. It's polite and civilized. Polite is civilized.
A more civil society, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another point that came up in the article as well is talked about sticks and stones and everything, but this is not a slippery slope, because as we've seen in London, there were, when they banned guns, there became a lot of knife assaults by criminals. And so what's the next thing that the state did then? Of course, we got to ban the knife, of course. Which has led to all kinds of silliness going on there, where, a person's carrying a pair of scissors or something, they might be in violation of this law. So it's just absolute insanity with some of this kind of stuff.
Well, you could always thank the progressives for the insanities of their central planning.
I tell you, though, I do feel a little safer with the science of firearms than the science of these masks. I'm not sure it's how much good it's doing. The science told me this was going to help, a double mask. I'm not quite sure, but I'll keep it on the rest of the episode just for your guys' protetion. Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Sorry. Well, this is just about the time for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, and so for this one, and maybe we could get the image back up on the screen again real quick. This one gives us Representative Pramila Jayapal, and so she made a rather crazy observation. Apparently, she had said that rich people literally want to pay more taxes. And this kind of flies in the face of just about every historical observation that's ever been made about, rich people ever flocking to places where they advertised higher taxes. And also too, it begs the question too, if that's the case, why don't they just give the government some of their money voluntarily too? Because they can always tax themselves more if they prefer.
Exactly.
But apparently her quote, she had seen some article, I guess, that in at the Davos, I guess, a letter had been sent in by 102 millionaires signing this letter, I guess, that apparently said they didn't feel that they were taxed enough and wanted to be taxed more. So she then apparently made the observation from this that working people want to tax the rich, and it turns out that the rich want to be taxed too. So let's get this done. Level the playing field and make the challenging investments into our community. So that's what she said. Well, the crazy thing is that, okay, so there's 102 millionaires at Davos apparently signed this. And that's at Davos, so this is international. Well, it turns out that 102 is just a drop in the bucket, because the actual number of millionaires, even though it may be a little bit challenging for her, 22 million millionaires in this country. And I think if this were truly a popular sentiment, you could have gotten more than 102 on that letter. Anyways, you guys go ahead. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, obviously, she went to a public school, where math was so woke and so typical of white supremacy that she didn't learn mathematics in any sense. And besides, she didn't learn anything about common sense either, because you are absolutely right. If these woke millionaires think, well, oh my God, the best thing that I could do is to turn my money over, my hard-earned money, I should just turn it over to the central planners. Well, damn it, just write them a check when you file your taxes. You can, okay? If your normal taxes, you only got to pay $1,000. You could write for $2,000 if you want to. Tell them the difference is because of your wokeness, okay? So don't come with this garbage of telling us, oh, millionaires want to pay more taxes. CNN or one of these people always come up with these polls. Oh, millionaires want to pay more. Oh, they just want to pay their fair share. You always hear this damn nonsense. Please, give me a break.
I just saw a made-for-TV movie, and in one of the scenes, they actually digitally put stars in front of the clouds that were in the sky. Okay? The stars were in front of the clouds. That's what this is. This is digital stars in front of the clouds.
Yeah,
is what this is, and I call BS.
Well, clearly, you pointed out her judgment is cloudy. But I tell you, we're at about the end of this episode, and these masks sure are uncomfortable that I'm wearing for your protection out there. So we got to get going. But thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you at the next one. Till then, be well, stay free.
Indeed.